Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I am very excited today to welcome Jennifer Winkler, who found the benefits of reintroducing carbs after shunning them for a certain period of time. Hi, Jennifer. Thank you so much for accepting my invite. Can you share a little bit with my audience your bio? What have you, how did you get into keto or carnivore? And then how did you get the courage to reintroduce carbs? And what has that done for you?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for having me on. I think this is a topic that definitely needs to be spoken about more, and that it's not just a few handful of people. So I started, I would say low carb first in 2017. I had just had my baby in 2016, so I gained over 80 pounds during that pregnancy. I was over 200 pounds postpartum, and I wasn't trying low carb. It just happened to be that. I said, let me take out the junk food and the processed junk, and ended up being vegetables and fruits and all that stuff. And then I found ketogenic because I also have epilepsy, and I've had epilepsy since I was 12. And I was on a very, very high dose of two medications. So throughout my teenage life, up until my 20s, I've gone through about five or six different medications. And then they decided to give me a second one. And that did control my seizures well, but I was having a lot of side effects from it. So I had Googled, how to heal epilepsy naturally. And ketogenic kept coming up, but my neurologist didn't know anything about it. So I took it upon myself to learn and how to do it. So I did do that starting 2018, and I lost, I would say about 70, probably 60 to 70 pounds using ketogenic. My PCOS reversed, my prediabetes got better, like all the stuff that we hear all the time.
And you
Uh,
stopped the drug at the same time?
I did not yet. That one was a longer process because my husband and I were always still open to having more kids. So I did switch to a new neurologist at Mayo Clinic who has done studies. When I started looking at published studies, I found her and I said, "Oh my gosh, she's right here in Phoenix. This is great." So she had done studies on ketogenic with adults with epilepsy. So I switched to her and she said, "That's great. We can get you off of one of the medications." So we did stop one. The second medication over those years, I more than halved it. So I'm still on some medication, but that's again because we're still open to having more kids. And it's the risk benefit thing. Like I still have to do testing and see what's going on.
Yeah,
COVID messed everything up with all that. So it's just, I
right.
haven't been able to do that.
Because
Um,
like the hormonal shifts during pregnancy could stress out that condition because you're living in the modern world. There are a lot of things that affect it,
yes.
it's not just the diet.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, it's definitely a big I mean, I am going to get tested next year, get another EEG done and see where things are at. I do want to tell her it's just scary. I've been on medication since I was 12, and
Right,
I'm 42 years old. So
right.
it's a definitely even just adding the carbs in, which we'll get to, it's not just will I gain weight, it's will I have a seizure and I have kids to take care of. So it's scary. Um, but yeah, I'll get into that. So I did keto for a while. I lost the weight. I started feeling better, energized, all the things we always hear about. But then the weight started coming back on. And I started getting more brain fog and things. So I said, well, maybe I need to do it harder and I need to go carnivore. So I did that. And sure enough, the weight did come off. And I was feeling better for a very short bit. But then afterwards, my energy started tanking. My progesterone in the luteal phase started going down
Mhm.
drastically. I was getting anxiety, brain fog, all kinds of things. So I slowly started reintroducing carbs. I said, maybe I'll go back to keto without the junk, without the keto process. Have some berries, have some. I was trying to do it cyclical. The week to 2 weeks before my period, I would have carbs and then I'd be keto the first half. But that I wouldn't say that helped a lot, maybe a little bit, but I still had a lot of issues. So so that's that story. I don't know if you want me to jump into the carbs part yet.
Yeah, let's now transition because I know that I had a couple of days where I actually was crying because I already started reintroducing carbs, and after 10 years of being deep into the keto, not just like reading about it, like I was teaching my students, creating content, and I'm like such a huge nerd that if my brain is not learning 24/7, it's like an addiction to learning.
Mm.
So, like, I went all the way with keto and then with carnivore. And so to unbrainwash yourself from that, it's not going to be easy. Now, I would say it was only like 2 nights. I remember it was in the evening. I was tired and I had that meal that I needed to eat and I was like I was crying. So, I want to hear your point of view and your experience doing that.
Yeah, so I actually in 2020, where are we? 2025. So 2022, I think it was, the end of that year, I hired a coach in the keto space who does work with carbohydrates. And he, after talking to me, he said, I think you need to bring carbs in. And I freaked out. I was just like, no way, man. I do this for my epilepsy. I'm supposed to do this for life. But we had some good conversations, and there was also a conference I went to in 2021, I think it was, where I heard it was actually Benazati that was there. It was a very small conference, and he was there, and I talked to him afterwards because he had mentioned we're not supposed to be keto for life. It can mess up your hormones. And I talked to him about that. I said, but what about me who I'm doing it for epilepsy and I am seeing hormone issues? What do I do? He said, well, you're a different case.
Hmm.
And I said, but it's still my hormones. Like, why do I have to pick one or the other? Why do I have to pick control epilepsy or have balanced hormones? I shouldn't have
Right.
to.
Right, like,
That
because
was,
how can you control epilepsy too if your hormones are getting messed up more and more and worse off as the years go by, right? I mean, it's all one
yeah,
system.
you're exactly right because progesterone, which we create in our second half of our cycle, is actually calming for epilepsy. So if my progesterone was starting to tank, it's going to mess it up even more. So you're exactly right. But yeah, so that was the first seed planted was when I talked to Ben. And then afterwards, talking to this coach a year or two later, and he helped me get over the fear of carbs. I'll say that was the biggest thing. I did gain about 15 pounds working with him, but I will admit I probably wasn't doing everything I was supposed to be doing that he told me to do. There was just too much going on in my life at that time, and I think it was the wrong timing. But
Yeah.
I think it was definitely a big help to get over the fear that, hey, I can have some apples and oranges and squash, and I'm fine. Nothing's happening. Fast forward, so I think I was staying around 50 grams of carbs from then on. And
Mm.
you know, I was playing around with things. I started losing that weight I gained. And
Did you
then,
work out? Did you track calories? How did you?
yes,
Yeah,
yes, I was. So here's the thing. I was going to the gym and lifting heavy, and I would go for my morning walks, sometimes evening walks. I was tracking my food, but I didn't have energy to lift the weights. I would last like 30 minutes and then I'd come home and just lay down because I was so tired.
exactly. That was the
Mhm.
thing for me because all I talk about raising baseline dopamine, creating a super brain, creating more strength in your body, all that stuff. And at some point, you could not recover fast enough at the higher and higher levels. You need the carbs. Then you get injured, and it's like a whole thing.
Yeah, no, exactly. That was the deal. So this year, I would say last year I started upping it a little bit more and I took a long time to get to where I'm at now. So around June of this year, I was probably 100 to 150 grams of carbs, depending on the day. And that was working really well for me, obviously lowering the fat. And I started feeling better. I had lost weight some more, but not like the scale. It was the body recomposition. The scale has been pretty much the same since June,
Right.
but my stomach's flatter, my glutes are getting better. I have more energy in the gym. So yeah, and now I've
That's
raised
the
the,
thing. How
yeah,
many carnivore glutes do you see?
I don't see too many.
None. I don't know. If there's
No.
one person, and if there's one person that's like 0.0001%, which
Yeah.
means you have only 0.0001% success rate of achieving popping glutes, which, by the way, are an indication of overall health, right? You don't get
Yeah.
popping glutes without strong legs, strong core, higher baseline dopamine, better mental functioning, better insulin resistance, better
Yeah.
productivity, income. I mean, everything.
Everything, 100%. And like for me, I want to keep that blood sugar balanced. And so what's the easiest muscle to grow, I feel like, is is the glutes and the quads and your thighs. And when you have the more muscle, your blood sugar balance is better, and then you can utilize the glucose even better.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm up to like 200, 250 grams. I feel right now as winter is coming, I feel it going down a little bit. I'll never go back to keto I shouldn't say never. Right now, I don't plan on it to go back to ketogenic macros, but maybe more, winter leaning into the seasons where we don't have as much carb resource naturally. So
Yeah.
probably like 100, is where I'm thinking I'm going. But we'll see. But I do overall, I can go 3 to 4 times a week to the gym without exhaustion, come home, do my mom stuff, do the laundry, do the dishes, teach the kid. Like, I'm not tired where I'm just sitting doom scrolling. The dopamine aspect that you speak of, like, I'm not searching for that anymore. And
Exactly.
it's just been such a freedom to be able to do that. There's other awesome things too with a family where I don't have to make the separate meals. We can just all eat together and just portion it according to
Right.
what people need. So,
For
yeah.
me, the biggest, so I was doing it because my PhD degree was studying raising baseline dopamine and treating addictions, right? And so the longer I've been refining the research on that and refining the techniques, eventually I realized it's not just dopamine, it's actually what I call the Adderall effect. If somebody who does not have ADHD takes a pill, Adderall, extended release, the high you feel, the euphoria, it's a form of a cocaine, really. Just pharmaceutical cocaine is what it is. That high that you feel, a lot of top performers, a lot of entrepreneurs, ultra rich people take it, but it's not very smart to take it every day because over time, what's going to happen is you're taking a drug externally without working for it. It's going to downregulate dopamine. So, anyway, turns
Yeah.
out it's not just the dopamine, it's the dopamine, the norepinephrine, and the serotonin. It's that trifecta that is the Adderall effect. That
Mm,
the closer you get to it, the more money you're going to make, the leaner you're going to be, the more confident you're going to be. Verbal fluency is going to improve. People are going to sense you're more of an alpha. It's like people say alpha and beta. It's a spectrum of strength of character from beta very weak to alpha very strong. So you get closer and closer to the alpha, right?
hmm
And so what I did not realize is how closely the income parallels the closer I get to it. It's like clockwork. If I'm doing an interview, if I'm wanting to film a YouTube video, I make sure I'm getting closer and closer to the Adderall effect, and I can see my income going up and up with it. It's amazing. It is the foundation of life. Everything you want in life is dictated by where those three neurotransmitters are standing. What is the level? The
hmm
higher you get, the more income, leaner, fitter, happier, more energetic, more productive,
Yeah.
everything.
What did you find with carnivore with that dopamine aspect? Because I was listening to something recently this
Uh-huh.
morning, actually, with
Mm-hmm.
the norepinephrine, the dopamine, and all that, and how staying zero carb for long term actually affects all those hormones.
Well, that's exactly what happened to me, and I didn't realize it, right? I was like, because I wanted to keep pushing, right? I wanted to build a stronger brain. I want more things in my life. I want to achieve more. So I need to create a brain that can handle higher and higher levels of stress that accompany higher and higher levels of success, right? So that you don't feel the stress.
Hmm
And as I'm pushing harder, I'm not recovering as well. I'm starting. I had done all this work to raise my baseline dopamine, and now all of a sudden it's backfiring because if you're not recovering, if you're under recovered, now your baseline dopamine is dropping.
Yeah,
So you start going in the opposite direction. Start having cravings. Then if you do touch rice, it
yeah.
triggers or zucchini. It triggers, this just goes to show you that now you're actually weakening your brain and your body, right? Which affects everything in your life.
Where just as something as simple as an apple or an orange tastes incredibly sweet, and then that's causing you to want to binge on all the
Yeah,
healthy
it's
foods.
true. It
Yeah.
happens
Yep.
because as you're dropping and dropping and dropping your baseline dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, all those things are dropping. When you have something a little bit sweet, because your baseline is so low, the spike, there's a lot of increase in the dopamine. So it's really how high that spike in dopamine and serotonin, the higher it is before it hits the ceiling, the more you have memory consolidation of the event, and the more that becomes more of like a trigger for an even more addictive binge. But as you raise
Yep.
and raise and raise baseline dopamine, you could literally have crack cocaine and it wouldn't trigger an addiction because
Mhm.
your baseline is so high. It doesn't, you don't have much room to go anymore to raise it even higher. There's no memory consolidation. You don't have addiction. My hubby is like that. He could do
Interesting.
anything in the world, doesn't
Yeah.
care. He
Yeah.
naturally has the gene. I have to work for it.
Must be nice.
That's what I tell him. You see? Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's
So
fascinating.
it is. It's so that was for me why I was like, hold on a second. I have all these goals, all these ambitions. I need to rethink everything I thought I knew. Does it mean it doesn't work? Does it mean, I mean, I use carnivore with some clients. They need to be sometimes if you have something that needs to calm down, inflammation to calm down, we do it. We calm down the symptoms so your quality of life improves immediately. But we know that we can't stay there for too long because then it's going to come back and bite us in the ass. So we have to now understand why this happened in the first place. What is a long-term strategy so that we can create over a long enough period of time a stronger gut and no, you can literally reverse autoimmune symptoms to a much higher degree than you can do with keto or carnivore. Same thing with leaky gut, everything.
Yeah.
So short term versus long term. In the long term, there's no limit. Speed
Yeah.
up metabolism by thousands of
Oh
calories,
yeah.
right?
Oh, I'm eating a lot more than what I did before. And again, the scale stays the same with the typical 2 to 3 pounds each cycle, right? Like
Yeah.
it's incredible boosting up that metabolic rate. And then I know once I am eating at what maintenance should be, I can easily drop a little bit of calorie and then lose any extra I still
Yeah.
have.
If you are sick and tired of restriction that keeps getting more and more restrictive and it's leading to you getting weaker both physically and mentally, and your income is suffering and you don't have energy and productivity is going down and you're becoming depressed and anxious and your gut health is worsening, your hormones are shot. If you're sick and tired of that, I understand. And this is why I am creating the bulk of my short term content that's coming out to helping you transition away from this carb phobia so that you understand how carbohydrates are not only something that is okay to have, it's actually the thing that will make you superhuman. So if you are interested in learning how to do that, keep watching my YouTube videos, or if you cannot wait, then check out my coaching packages at drsarahzoldivar.com/coaching. Specifically, I just launched a brand new coaching package for $300 when you use code YouTube at checkout. For the next 48 hours, it's going to give you 50% off so that instead of paying $600, you get $300. For that, you get 12 Zoom calls over 3 months, and it's 30 minutes for every coaching call, and unlimited email support, unlimited diet and meal plan and supplement adjustments. And also, if you have any labs, we can go over them. And that way, you can learn how to transform your lifestyle, your income, your fitness, your energy, your happiness. Every single element in your life can be supercharged as you move away from the restriction and shunning one of the most powerful energy macronutrients that allowed us to establish civilization. Also, if you want to stay updated on my research, make sure you are signed up for my free newsletter at drsarahzoldivar.com/newsletter. Now back to the podcast.
But you were saying about the gut health, and that was a big one as well. Well, I shouldn't say never. I didn't have any big GI symptoms. Like I would my going to the restroom actually was not frequent enough. It was probably like typical carnivore once every 3 to 4 days, right? And it
Yeah.
wasn't very
Yeah.
comfortable, but now it's been consistently 1 to 2 times a day, which I
Yep.
don't care what people say, you need to poop every day. Like there's
Yes.
other things besides the food evacuating your body. It's
Estrogen
hormonal.
dominance,
Yes, and that was what I was
microplastics.
going to say. My estrogen was high, and my progesterone was too high, which I wasn't pregnant. So I was like, what's the deal? And then when I did some research, I saw if there's too much stress in the body, whether it's mental, physical, sometimes the body can overproduce progesterone because of the calming effect.
Uh-huh.
So
There you go.
that's what was
Yep.
happening to me. Now my estrogen is fantastic. It's perimenopause stage, so there's some cycles it's a little low, some that it's normal. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
Progesterone is perfectly fine. Everything's working better. Going to the bathroom regularly. But then also, I was getting really bad stomach pains on carnivore,
Ah,
signaling low stomach acid.
yeah.
So I did a lot of work trying to balance stomach acid. And there was even once I was trying to do a 3-day fast to try and lose some more weight. And I couldn't make it past 18 hours because I started getting so much sharp, sharp pain here, like ER visit kind of pain.
Wow.
And that's when I said something else is wrong here. And when I started researching more and all the stuff I was trying to learn, I found out that when you fast too much or you're zero carb too much and you're not feeding the colonocytes
Mm-hmm.
in your colon, they
Yeah.
begin to eat at the mucus lining.
It's true.
Yep. And so
Ketone
that's,
bodies are not the same as butyrate. All those
oh,
keto experts made us believe that, oh, it's okay. Beta hydroxybutyrate from ketone production is gonna feed your
from
gut.
butter,
No, go chat GPT and ask the difference and
it's
ask it which one is optimal to
different.
feed your gut cells, your colonocyte. It's not even close.
No, no. And I had to do I'm still finishing up a gut protocol, but when I did my gut test this year, actually in June, it was horrendous. And I don't eat crap food. Like I was eating good quality, locally, cows local. We get our half cow, all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. And my ammonia level was through the chart. Like it was so high, the ammonia, the trimethylamine, I think is how you say it. All
Trimethylamine,
these,
yeah.
yeah, all these markers that show the protein, like too much protein, too much fat. My iron, I had massive iron overload
Wow.
in my blood work. My doctor just goes, "Oh, you're just eating too much meat." He was like, "So no, what's going on?" So everything was signaling that this just wasn't for me,
Yeah.
uh, and that I needed to shift things. And I'm this month, at the end of this month in 2 weeks, I will be retesting everything, like a full comprehensive blood work, see where things are at, my iron, my A1C, insulin. But insulin's been good. Thyroid has drastically improved. Like my
Yeah.
hair's not falling out the way it was before. It's just, it was my frustration was, and I mean, obviously I'm a coach, so I was kind of saying this sometimes too, but people say, well, you're just not eating enough fat, or you're eating too much fat because you're not, you're not losing weight because you're eating too much fat, but you need more fat to go to the bathroom better. But then you need more, like, it was just like, why is this so complicated? It shouldn't be this complicating. Right now, I can just go in the fridge and eat healthy foods and I don't have to nitpick every little thing, you know?
Exactly. I just onboarded literally just this week two new clients, both same thing. They gained weight on carnivore. Both of them, thyroid got shot. One of them lost her eyelashes, her eyebrows, and half her hair. She's
Oh
like,
my
I can't
gosh.
believe I fell for this crap, you know? And I know
Yeah,
it's not crap for everybody. It's a tool, it's an
right.
elimination diet that we do. You have to learn how to use it for its powers, and understand once it starts to backfire, right? And then I
Yeah.
cannot tell you how many carnivores are DMing me and they're like, yes, like keep talking about this. I've started reintroducing carbs, but I'm not ready yet to share it publicly. And they've done the same. I have some, I'm not gonna share who, but
Wow.
they've done the microbiome test and they've realized that it got destroyed after doing carnivore for so long.
Yeah,
So
I really regret that part because it takes a long time to rebuild the gut. It's
it
not
does.
easy.
It does.
So, yeah,
But I'm creating so much content on that to, I mean, not all that, like it depends also how long you've been on it and what was your starting point. Some
right.
people will get there faster, just like with everything. Some people, you've had too much trauma, too much stress in your life, and there's so many there, or maybe social status is lower than somebody else. All those things have you at a lower baseline dopamine, right? And so you have way more work to do to bring it up to somebody else, whereas somebody else might not just need like a little bump to get there, you know?
Right.
So it's all relative. Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I mean, there are people that say they're doing well. And to me is like, okay, then keep
Yeah.
doing what you're doing, but just
Yeah.
monitor and make sure there's nothing that's going negative, right? And
Right.
I,
Right.
I'm at the point where I don't see a reason someone would need to stay that strict forever. Like, there's so many different things it could go down, but there's inner work that people need to do a lot of times to see why can't I have the apple or the banana or the whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Or if this vegetable causes gas and stuff. Well, just because that one does doesn't mean the others will also. I can't do Brussels sprouts. I stay away from those. I can't do potatoes and I can't do rice.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that I don't sit well with me. It affects my brain, it affects my mental clarity. So I feel best mostly with fruits.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do well so far. The liver's been fine so far. We'll find out in the next blood work, but
I remember having a client one time where her liver enzymes were shooting up like crazy, and I'm like, no, it's okay, and let's do this, and let's optimize vitamin D, all those things, and she's like, you know what, I'm out of here. And she had lost an insane amount of weight, so it was working
Mhm.
there. The food noise was gone, but the liver enzymes were crazy. And Zane Griggs, remember,
Mhm.
I think in our interview, I don't remember when, he was telling me how his liver enzymes quieted down.
Yep.
When he reintroduced carbs. So there is something to that as well, you know?
Mine did too. I mean, I was taking a couple other supplements. I was doing TUDCA, I was doing phosphatidylcholine. Um, but when I initially started, it didn't shift with the supplements. Once I started bringing in carbs, which was last year, I was still low carb, but it was carbs. It slowly started going down. My liver enzymes were in the 50s and 40s. They were high from the medication, and
Mhm.
now they're in the 20s. So
Oh,
I'd
nice.
like them to be in the teens, but I will be happy with 20s for now.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think all these benefits you've gotten, adding cardio, because cardio is what's going to give you that trifecta, that Adderall effect,
Mhm.
because cardio gives you especially at progressively overloading cardio. Because if anybody's listening to this and they go join a group class, that is not what I'm talking about. Because you literally raise your baseline a little bit with a group class and then you're stuck there for years, right? So progressive overload cardio, if you just add that, that raises dopamine and norepinephrine at higher and higher intensities. That's what dopamine, norepinephrine responds more to. But then the mileage, time under tension, is what raises your baseline serotonin. And when you have this trifecta, then you're unstoppable. Also, that is what boosts your microbiome health and diversity above and beyond anything else. Seals leaky gut, a lot of the food sensitivities you mentioned, like the rice, you could go back and eat them easily and thrive on them as well. So a lot of food
Yeah.
sensitivities that we might have, just by supercharging our microbiome, you can go back and have that, and everything just gets better.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm not knocking it out forever. Just right now, until those things heal, that's
Yeah,
where I'm at. And that's the beauty of this whole thing. I was on my friend's channel yesterday and we were talking about this, like what foods are we eating now and what's the difference? And for me right now, the difference is there's no restriction. I literally will try a piece of food. Does it work for me? No? Okay. That food in itself doesn't work for me. That doesn't negate the whole category it's in, right? Like maybe even it doesn't have to be all potatoes. Maybe sweet potatoes work for me. I don't know. I haven't really had any this season yet. I had it one day. But it could be just that type of potato. Maybe it's just russet potatoes. Maybe it's
yeah,
just the red. So that's been kind of the fun part for me is just trying things out and not worrying about the whole, I don't have to exclude all macronutrient of one type of thing. I'm still having fat, but just not a lot. I'm still having my good amount of protein. I'm still prioritizing animal-based foods. It's just, I have found myself happier overall, food is meant to be enjoyable as well as nourishing.
yeah,
And I'm finally finding that. Like, I love a steak. I was finding enjoyment in that, but
yeah,
it was temporary. And I was getting tired of having the same brown foods all the time, and having
right,
to recreate desserts with all the dairy and stuff. And it's like, this doesn't feel right. And I
right,
want
right,
a good model for my kids. I don't
right.
want to have a fear of food?
That's true. Food is fuel. I mean, there's a reason why civilization was established after we started consuming more carbs, right? After the agricultural revolution. So, why would we want to go back a step back in evolution and have the caveman's diet when we were
Mm,
cavemen? Why not the civilized population's diet, right? I
yeah.
mean, and we just know so much right now as to how to go back and include the agricultural revolutions diet, which includes the carbohydrates, but also know when it might hurt us and when we might overdo it and, match it to our level of insulin resistance and all that. When you mentioned how much happier you are, that was huge for me. Like I was telling my hubby the yesterday, I think, and I was telling him I don't even remember like what a craving feels like.
Hmm.
And that was something I've struggled with ever since I was 12. It definitely improved with keto carnivore, but then as I'm pushing harder and wanting to build an even stronger body and brain, started to backfire. And that's when, I decided to change things up. And yeah, it's been like months upon months. I mean, it's like it's never happened in the entirety of my life that I don't even know what a craving feels like anymore. I forgot.
Yeah, I've noticed things like that when I was restricting my carbohydrates more so. It was very much if I was at a birthday party or anything and there was cake, I wanted to demolish it. I was like, gosh, I need some. Now that I'm having all these fruits and all these, very basic carbohydrates, obviously not the donuts and things, I can have just one piece and be happy. Our church every couple weeks has people bring home baked goods and we just share together and we enjoy our time together. And I had someone's pumpkin bread that was so delicious and just a small piece and I was good. I didn't feel like I needed to go back and have more. Whereas in the past, anything with the slightest sweetness, I wanted to keep going. And it
Yeah.
was just, it's moments like that that the true food freedom, it hits, right? Like,
Yeah.
wow, I don't feel a slave. I don't feel like a slave compared, or sorry, I don't feel like a slave to the foods, is what I'm trying to say.
I completely understand exactly how that feels like. I tell everybody this has been the most revolutionary year for me in 2025. I'm so happy. Not only just waking up happy and having all the energy, but also making more money and everything becomes easier and looking even better and relationships even get better, because then you have the energy to fight.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
No,
like,
exactly.
no, we don't fight, but you know what I mean? Like you have
No,
the
there's,
energy
yeah.
to maintain, as opposed to giving in to something that you think is not right, actually,
Yeah. And it's playful at times too, you know. You can just have fun with it. It doesn't have to be a nasty argument or anything.
No, no, no. We're very, me and my hubby, we're very passionate, intense people. So it's not like we fight. It's just when we talk or like if we want to make a point sometimes and I'm trying to convince him of something and he's trying to convince me of something, it's like at a very high intense level. It's not
Yeah.
like, well, I don't really like no. Then we're like we go for it.
That's pretty much myself as well. Like I'm part Portuguese and we
You
can be
get
pretty,
it.
yes, I do.
Exactly. You're part Portuguese and you said another part what?
Oh no, just the other half is Indian, but yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Like
yeah, there's more fire inside,
yeah.
I'm Lebanese, so obviously, Lebanese people are we're actually, I realized, we're very similar to Hispanics and Latin Americans, this passion, intensity,
Hmm.
fire, energy,
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing. I mean,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
You just channel it the right way.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And you were mentioning about also happiness. Turns out you actually need carbs and that insulin spike to allow the amino acids, the proteins you're eating, to be able to cross through the blood-brain barrier to create more dopamine, norepinephrine, acetylcholine, the focus neurotransmitter. So if we're keeping insulin very, very low, you're not building anything. You can barely make enough dopamine and serotonin
Mhm.
unless, of course, the 0.0001% of the population that has that gene and that's what happens, right? Some people, they have the gene that they just make tons of those neurotransmitters. You can put them on any diet, they're going to thrive. I'm my hubby's like that. He doesn't need to eat carbs, even though he does, but even if he didn't, he would still be high all the time. It's very frustrating. Really.
The men have it easier in a lot of ways.
Oh gosh. So and then also the enzyme that not only crossing through the blood-brain barrier, but then the enzyme that actually converts the amino acids into the neurotransmitters requires an insulin spike. So why? Why would you want to live on a lower level of brain function when everybody around you is taking advantage of that ability, right?
Yeah.
who's
No,
going
it's
to
true.
do better and yeah.
Yeah, and in the beginning, I mean, I think a lot of just to uh, listening to people that are saying right now, I know there's people thinking, watching, saying, I'm carnivore now and I have the most energy, so I don't know what you're talking about. My brain is happy, everything's good. And it's like, yeah, well, maybe you're part of that small percent you're speaking of, but also there is the cortisol and the adrenaline aspect that happens, and those things stimulate those hormones that you speak of to make you happy and to give you the energy. So it's just how long can your body run on that? Some people, like myself, who has a history of a lot of stress in my childhood and adverse child events, I had maybe this much, a little bit. But other people who maybe they live in the woods or they have lots of peaceful, calming stuff, maybe it'll last longer for them.
Yeah,
So it's just, we have a lot of stressors in our lives. I live in the city. There's a lot of stress that I can't control that comes around in my environment. So,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, if you're like a multimillionaire and everything is great, like you can get by easily with that because the quality of your life means that your baseline cortisol is always low and your baseline dopamine is always high. And, there
Mhm.
are so many things that are far more powerful than diet, actually.
Yeah.
And then I notice men can hang on to it longer without ill effects, but women tend to
Mhm.
really start suffering sooner, And
Yeah, that's definitely the pattern.
postmenopausal women even worse.
Yes. Yeah. I have a couple clients who've been with me for a while and I'm trying to get them on board with this and they are just too scared. They're too
Mhm.
scared. They want to keep staying in the diet that's not working for them. And I'm like, I got no other tools for you. We've already exhausted everything. So it's tough, and that's the hard part you were saying earlier about being brainwashed in a sense. I don't want to use the word brainwash, but the education we were learning was pointing to this is the answer, carnivore keto is the answer for everything. And when you're able to unlearn and look at both sides of the story, that's what I did was I didn't just stay in the echo chamber of the same doctor saying the same thing. I said, why is my son's jujitsu professor, who is a female, how is she vegan and winning medals, MMA medals? There's a lot of vegan jujitsu people. So I was like, well, let me start understanding their side of the story. And that's when I was like, wow, okay, I understand that more so. And it's making sense why everything else that I believed before is not true. Like, it's very eye-opening.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's a revolution this year, I think.
Yeah.
Because now it's like I feel like we've hit a tipping point where everybody, and there's more information also, and we have more people that have done this for a longer period of time, and so the results are in, and
Mhm.
that's why it makes sense now for people to realize that those ill effects are actually, yes, it is high cortisol. It is just a very stressful place to live in, and it becomes even more stressful on your body the more you ask of yourself, right? If you want to
Mhm.
become a CEO, an entrepreneur, if you want to get even leaner and fitter, if you want to put more muscle, the more demands you ask of your body and your career, then the stress from long-term ketosis and carnivore becomes even worse.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think one of the other things that was hard to get over was, the insulin factor of, oh my gosh, but fruit spikes your glucose and spikes your insulin and all that, and insulin is a fat storing hormone, but one of the things that I think a lot of people need to expound their mind on is that our bodies are not that simple, and insulin's job is not just about storing fat. There's a lot of other things. And the other thing is, well, what if I'm not taking in a lot of fat? What if my fat is minimal, like just enough for hormones and brain and all that stuff? Like, will it actually store that, or is that going to be utilized in its proper place?
Yeah,
And then glucose gets, and insulin's not high the whole day,
no.
It's supposed to have these ups and downs throughout the day,
It's
but not extreme, obviously.
Exactly. You're supposed to
Yeah.
have a spike after your meals. If you look at all of the hunter-gatherer ancestors, all of the tribes, their glucose is pretty low fasting and all day long, but it really shoots up when they eat. You're supposed to
Hmm.
have a building hormone. It's a building hormone. Yeah, it
Yeah.
can build fat if you're in a caloric surplus,
Yeah.
but you also needed to build muscle and your brain and everything, right? And to allow the nutrients to enter into your cells. So it's like, do you want to progress and evolve and grow? Then you need the growing hormone. Or do you
Yeah,
want
no,
to just,
exactly.
right? It just makes no sense.
And that's the part with going to the gym where I was working out at the gym for 2 to 3 years at least, and I did get some muscle growth in here. I was looking back at pictures. I don't want to exaggerate anything. There was like a little bit of definition here. My quads had a little bit of definition, but it wasn't where it should be for someone who's been working out for 3 years. Like I should have had more. My glutes were not getting anywhere. My abs were not getting anywhere. My biceps were okay.
Yeah.
But I took some time off this year because of all this exhaustion my body was going through. So I restarted about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and it's amazing how I'm breaking PRs in just 3 or 4 weeks. I
I know.
wasn't back then. It's mind-boggling. My husband, almost every day he has to hear it from me where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just mind-blowing to me. Like how not just the PRs, but just how
That's
I can
funny.
I have a CGM on right now, and how I had 100 grams of carbs and fruits, and my glucose only went to 125 and came right back down within an hour. Like, it's
Yep.
just blows my mind.
That is
It,
so funny when you said that. That's what I'm doing to my hubby. He's about to divorce me. It's like, I just hit another PR. And I was like, oh my gosh, I know, I know. I get that excitement because like, oh, finally we figured out the best way to get fitter and healthier, right? Because like
yeah.
you're doing the right way, you're getting fitter, but that also is tracking with better health, mental and
Mhm.
physical. So I
Yeah.
that's funny. It's so true. But yeah. I think the vast majority of people are very interested in figuring out how to do it. It just requires some extra nutrition knowledge to learn. Okay, how many grams of carbs? Do we have leaky gut? Should we see a leaky gut? How do we do that? What are the supplements? Should we take colostrum? Da, 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 like all those things. So it takes a little extra fine tuning, but then you become a literally a limitless human being because then you get to dictate how much further you want to grow physically and mentally because you're no longer capped by the diet.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. That's how I
Yeah.
feel. It's just, I'm not a high carber. I'm not a low carber. I call it, I've done this for months and I hear other people starting to do it. I just call it the Jen Winkler diet. Like what works for me. And, with my clients, we're going to start some group coaching in January. And every single one of those, they're all going to look different. Some might, if they're strict carnivore, I'm not going to throw them up at 300 grams of carbs. We have a
Yeah.
process we have to go
Yeah.
through. But same with testing, every one-on-one client I get, I always do gut testing. And I
Yeah.
have only had one client who had good gut health, and he was not carnivore. He was
Funny.
just
Yeah.
somebody that was like, hey, I just want to do my gut test just to see where things are at. And I was like, okay. And he had almost a perfect score. There was only like two small things to work on, and I
Yeah.
was like, you don't even have to if you don't want." He's like, "No, I will." So okay. But the carnivores that come to me every single time
Yeah.
is just bad gut health, and I can't say if carnivore caused it, but it definitely didn't help it.
I think carnivore is not helping as much as it's been a kind of like touted to help. Yesterday, yesterday, new client signed up. He told me that he did lion diet for 3 months to help with his Crohn's,
Hmm.
and where it's like, where are all the results I'm supposed to have, right? Because it's deeper than that. You require some deeper understanding of the microbiome, science, nutrition, right? And what boggles the mind is, I mean, this is basic stuff. Why would some people choose not to create that kind of content to help their audience? I don't get it, you
No.
know?
I do. Yeah. My husband actually has colitis. So when you said that, it
Yeah.
was wild because gosh, has it been 2 years now? When I was still in the carnivore mindset and he had a nasty flare up, the worst one of his life, I really thought he was going to die. He was down to 120 pounds, skin and bones, like terrified. And it was the worst flare up. And I was like, well, try carnivore. Everybody says colitis helps, carnivore helps colitis. And he did for like 3 days. He couldn't do it because I mean, when you're in a flare up with colitis, you're running to the bathroom all the time, and it doubled when he was doing meat only. And his weight was going down like 2 pounds a day. It was
Wow.
wild. So he just know you just know inside when you try something, you're like, no, this isn't it. So we hired another practitioner who had his diet go complete opposite. Rice, potatoes, no vegetables,
No
fruits.
FODMAPs. Yeah.
Yeah, yep, low FODMAP, and then doing elemental shakes to get the nutrients in. And he has been flare-up free, and colitis people always want to gain weight. That's his goal, and he has gained a significant amount of weight. He's never weighed this much. Now we're trying to find that balance for him.
Oh, he
Yeah, I was
overcorrected
like,
a
okay,
little bit.
like let's and
Yeah,
he's seen
yeah,
that too, so we're just finding that. But yeah, that's an interesting one for me is the IBD and those things where why is it some people do carnivore and their IBD calms down, but others it flares up and it's just again it gets down to the microbiome. His gut test, his GI map was like a Christmas tree. There was Candida, there was
yeah,
E. coli, there was C. diff, there was all kinds of stuff in
yeah,
there.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I prefer to work more by doing repopulating the gut and boosting, let's say, reintroducing L-reuteri,
Hmm.
reintroducing those really strong probiotic strains that we have lost. Oxalobacter formigens, which is this probiotic that feeds on oxalates, which
Oh,
all the carnivores are starving it. And it is such an important ancestral strain that we used to have. And so I prefer to reintroduce those and have them secrete their own natural antibiotics to keep
mhm.
the other bad bacteria in check, as opposed to
Yeah.
giving, drugs and stuff like that. Although sometimes you have to, but I find that if people are patient enough or willing to follow the plan, you can get there. It might take 1 month later, but then you wouldn't have to take the antibiotic that kills off I don't know how many strains we may still not have discovered.
No, exactly. Yeah, if you repopulate the healthy stuff in there, it can naturally kill off the bad. It
Yeah,
just like with my clients, it just depends on how much bad there is. We might do,
yeah,
biocidin or oil of
right.
oregano or things like that for
Herbal
a
antimicrobials.
period.
They're actually
Yeah.
more powerful than the prescription ones, and they have no
Mhm.
side effects. All the studies
Yeah.
that have been pitted both against one another. It's always the herbals are far more powerful, no side effects. So why not?
Yeah. Yeah. Just
Love
as
it.
long as anyone listening don't do it too long. That's it.
Yeah, yeah. Overhealing is a real thing, as everybody has discovered in 2025. So,
Yes.
thank you so much, Jennifer. I am so happy we got to have this conversation. Where can people find you, connect with you, and also if you have any last minute message for everybody and where people can work with you?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. So you can find me at Jen Winkler Wellness, both on YouTube and on Instagram. My website is jenwinkler.me. I will be honest, I don't keep it updated very well. I do more on social media than my website. But yeah, and then as far as a last, piece of advice or anything for anybody, I would say just break out of echo chambers. Don't just stay in echo chambers. Educate yourself, but don't stay confined to one way. Even if it's just, I want to listen to the opposite side so I know how to rebuttal them or, defend my stance for theirs. Sometimes in the midst of that, you're able to see the other side, and find that healthy balance. But don't be scared of carbohydrates. They're not trying to kill you. Just you have to find your balance and work with someone who's educated in all of this because you can't. Sometimes it's hard when you're just filled with all the noise in the space.
Yeah, yeah. And by the way, don't fall for the penile incompetence syndrome. If you don't know what that is, I have a new video that's going to come out explaining what it is because I have noticed that we instinctively, humans, we confuse confidence for competence. And who tends to be way more confident, generally speaking, after hundreds of years of misogyny and treating women as objects? Who
Mm.
has had more time to develop their confidence more easily without necessarily having to work for it as much and be as competent as they are confident, right? And so now, whenever I see, especially males, super confident, I make sure before I take their advice, double check.
Hmm.
Are they really? Because oftentimes, just being born a white male, you're
Hmm.
built up and you're encouraged and you're amazing from a very young age. It's like, yeah, I'm the shit. And so I don't have to work as hard as somebody else who is a girl from a very young age. We're treated and just all the messaging we get, right? Do you
Yeah.
have daughters?
I don't. Two
Oh,
boys.
okay.
Yeah.
So, but we're just bombarded from a very young age with misogynistic messaging, and then we have internalized misogyny that we have to actually overcome. Even women, it's like it
Mhm.
is a form of just brainwashing, if you want, or just when you get exposed to the same messaging from it for decades, it takes you a minute to
Mhm.
overcome that. You actually have to do the work to overcome that, and so women literally have to work 100 times as hard. They have to be 100 times more competent to match the confidence of a white male, usually.
Hmm. That's
So it's just,
interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
realized, oh, wow, I really have fallen for that trap. And I wasted 10 years of my life when I could have had these results a decade ago. So it's just something, I'm not saying all white males don't know what they're talking about. I'm just saying quiz them a little bit harder and remember that, is that playing a part? The penile incompetence syndrome, is it playing a part in their confidence or not?
I would say honestly, just with anybody, because there are some people on social media who
Yeah,
speak what they believe with such authority, and it is completely false. And I have
yeah,
seen women like this as well,
they do
men
exist.
and
Yeah.
women. There's some they have high follower counts, and the stuff they're saying is just completely bogus and completely false.
Oh my gosh,
And
that
it,
is.
it drives me bonkers because or if because they're wearing the orange glasses, they have this authority, right? Like
That's the
I've
first
got
word.
mine.
That's the first image that came to my mind when you were saying that. I wasn't gonna say it,
Yeah.
but yeah, I know.
Yeah, like I have mine, but I don't need to put it on for, you to feel like, oh, Jen has authority, like so
That's
it's just
hilarious.
have good discernment. I think that's the final one I would say is have good discernment. You don't need to trust everybody or believe everybody. Learn yourself as well and become a master of your own health.
Perfection. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Did you mention where people
Yeah,
can? Oh, yeah, you did mention,
I
and I
did.
will make
Yes.
sure. Yeah, I'll post your direct links underneath this YouTube video so people can click on them and find you directly. Again, I appreciate you taking the time to be with us today, and thank you everybody for sticking with us till the end. If you enjoyed this kind of content, make sure you let me know by giving this YouTube video a thumbs up, subscribing, and hitting that little notification bell icon so YouTube alerts you every time I post a new video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.